Have you ever stood on the verge of a major decision, only to be paralyzed by the ghost of a past failure? Or felt a wave of joy suddenly extinguished by an inner voice that whispers, "This is too good to be true"? We've been taught to believe this is our own voice, but what if it is an implanted echo? In the next minutes, we will unlock a vault of knowledge sealed in the desert for 1700 years. This is not a philosophical debate. It is a counterintelligence manual for the silent war waged against your inner God. Stay with us because you are about to learn not how to fight this voice, but how to make it entirely irrelevant. This internal conflict, this feeling of being at war with yourself, is one of the most profound and painful human experiences. It is a universal struggle. We treat it as a personal failure, a weakness of character that we must hide or overcome with brute force. But this is a fundamental misunderstanding of the problem. Imagine your truest self, your deepest potential, as a clear radio signal broadcast from the heart of the cosmos. It is a frequency of innate wisdom, creativity, and peace. You know the signal exists. You have felt it in moments of profound stillness, in acts of spontaneous kindness, or in the flow of pure inspiration. It is the frequency of your inner God. Yet most of the time we can't hear it clearly. The broadcast is almost entirely drowned out by a relentless, agitating static. This static takes the form of self-sabotaging thoughts, of anxieties that spiral into catastrophic futures, of the persistent feeling that you are not enough, or that you are an imposter in your own life. It is the energy that drains your will and keeps you playing small, convincing you that the static is the signal. It exhausts you because you spend your entire life fighting the noise instead of simply learning how to change the channel. Over a century ago, the pioneering psychologist Carl Jung provided a clinical map for this phenomenon. He observed that parts of our psyche could effectively split off and function with their own independent will, their own agenda. He called them autonomous complexes. These are not just fleeting thoughts. They are like sub-personalities, fragments of our own consciousness that have taken on a life of their own, often operating from the shadows of the unconscious mind. A complex behaves like a separate entity, pulling our strings and influencing our emotions in ways that feel alien to our conscious self. This concept from psychology is revolutionary because it validates that feeling you've had your entire life, that a part of your mind truly seems to be working against you. It gives us permission to see this internal battle not as a sign that we are broken, but as evidence of a legitimate division within the psyche. Jung provided the modern map for this internal division, giving us the psychological what. But centuries before him, a group of mystics, whose library was nearly erased by fire and dogma, claimed to have discovered the who. They didn't just identify the fractures in the mind, they identified the force that wedges them there in the first place, a force with a name. The source of this knowledge comes from a group known to history as the Gnostics. The word itself comes from the Greek gnosis, meaning knowledge. But this was not academic knowledge, it was direct, personal, experiential insight. The Gnostics were the original hackers of reality. Their core philosophy was both simple and radical. Liberation does not come from believing in a story told by an external authority, but from a profound inner discovery of one's own true nature. Their path was not faith, but investigation. For centuries, we knew of them almost exclusively through the hostile writings of their opponents, the early church fathers who declared them heretics. Their own words, their own libraries, were believed to have been utterly destroyed, their wisdom lost to the fires of history. Then in 1945, near the town of Nag Hammadi in Upper Egypt, a local farmer named Muhammad al-Saman made a discovery that would change our understanding of the ancient world. While digging for fertilizer, his spade struck something hard. It was a large, sealed ceramic jar. Inside, he found 13 ancient books bound in leather. These were the lost Gospels of the Gnostics. The survival of this forbidden library was nothing short of a miracle. In a tragic historical footnote, we know that upon bringing them home, Muhammad's mother, fearing their potential contents, burned several of these priceless codices to light their oven. The texts we have today are merely the ones that survived that fire. Within these miraculously preserved pages, we find the core of their teachings. They taught that within every human being lies a divine spark, a fragment of the true transcendent Godhead. They called this spark the pneuma. This was not just a poetic metaphor. To them, the pneuma was a kind of dormant spiritual technology, a latent capacity for perception that, when activated, allows one to see beyond the veil of the material world and the programming of culture. It is the source of our longing for truth, for meaning, for a home we can't quite remember. This idea of truth as a discovery, rather than a doctrine, resonates with a concept from the philosopher Martin Heidegger. He spoke of truth not as correctness, but as aletheia, a Greek word that means unconcealment or a revealing. For the Gnostics, just as for Heidegger, spiritual awakening was a process of peeling back the layers of illusion that hide what is already present, already true, within us. And this leads to the most shocking claim found in these surviving texts. They raise a monumental question. If we carry this divine technology within us, this direct link to the ultimate source, why is our experience of the world and of our own minds so often one of suffering, chaos, and limitation? The Gnostic answer is that the universe we inhabit, and even the powerful being that most of the world worships as God, are not what they appear to be. They are the work of a lesser, flawed, and deeply insecure creator. The Gnostics gave this lesser creator a name, the Demiurge. In their cosmology, this being is not the ultimate transcendent source of all things. He is something far more relatable. Imagine a divine middle manager. He was not the founder of the cosmic corporation, but was promoted to a position of immense power, far beyond his level of true comprehension. He is a master craftsman of the material world, a brilliant architect of physical laws, but he is fundamentally blind to the infinite reality from which his own existence derives. His primary emotional state is not malice, but a profound and gnawing insecurity. This cosmic drama is not merely an ancient myth. It is a perfect mirror for the workings of our own psyche. The Demiurge is the cosmic counterpart to our own performative ego. That part of us that builds a careful identity for the world to see, the part that craves validation through job titles, social status, and the approval of others, the part that lives in quiet terror of being exposed as a fraud. The system created by the Demiurge naturally rewards this performance. It encourages conformity, celebrates superficial achievement, and punishes authentic, unpredictable individuality, precisely because our own inner divinity is a threat to its authority. His universe is designed to keep us looking outward for our value, so that we never discover the infinite value already residing within. There is a powerful modern parable that perfectly illustrates this Gnostic vision. The film The Truman Show. Truman lives in a flawlessly constructed reality, a world that is safe, predictable, and entirely controlled by its creator, Christoph. Christoph doesn't hate Truman. In his own way, he believes he loves him. He wants to protect him from the chaos and pain of the real world. But this love is a cage. The price of this manufactured safety is Truman's freedom and his chance to experience the vast, true reality that lies just beyond the dome of his perception. The Demiurge is the cosmic Christoph. He offers us a structured, seemingly coherent world, but its hidden cost is our own gnosis. The Gnostic texts themselves support this view. In a manuscript from Nag Hammadi titled On the Origin of the World, it is written that the creations of the Demiurge and his rulers were not original, but were imitations, fashioned in the likeness of a higher, perfect reality that they could only faintly glimpse. He is a copier, a craftsman working with second-hand knowledge, forever unable to replicate the true essence of the original. And like any insecure manager presiding over a vast and fragile system, the Demiurge cannot tolerate genuine self-awareness among his subjects. He requires a mechanism of enforcement to ensure that no one ever questions the nature of their reality, to make sure no one ever looks up and sees the painted sky. He needs a team of cosmic auditors, a foreman who police the factory floor of consciousness. He needs the guards of the mental prison. So, what are these Archons? The Gnostic texts describe them not as horned demons or literal monsters, but as something far more insidious and subtle. The most accurate way to understand them in our modern context is as psychic counterfeiters. Their primary function is to subvert your inner spiritual economy by flooding it with fraudulent emotional currency. Think of it this way: your peace, your clarity, your innate sense of worth. These are your true gold reserves. The Archons are master forgers who mint counterfeit coins of shame, doubt, anxiety, and fear. They present these false coins to you disguised as your own legitimate thoughts and feelings. And if you unconsciously accept them as real, if you start trading in this fraudulent currency, you inevitably devalue your inner world. Your entire psychic economy crashes. Their first and most effective tactic is the injection of crippling doubt. Psychologists have a modern name for this specific counterfeit currency: the Imposter Syndrome. It is that pervasive, sinking feeling that your accomplishments are a fluke, that you are a fraud about to be exposed, regardless of all evidence to the contrary. If this sounds familiar, you are in the vast majority. Studies, including those cited by the American Psychological Association, suggest that as many as 70% of adults have experienced these feelings. The Archons are the invisible force that capitalizes on this near-universal vulnerability, whispering that your success is unearned and your value is conditional. Their second tactic is the masterful simulation of threats. Our brains are hardwired with what neurologists call a negativity bias. For survival, our ancestors needed to be far more attentive to the rustle in the bushes that might be a predator than to the beautiful sunset. Our brains are like Velcro for negative experiences and Teflon for positive ones. It is a primal survival code, and the Archons are expert hackers of this code. They exploit this biological loophole, weaving endless loops of anxiety about worst-case scenarios that almost never come to pass. They hijack this ancient alarm system and keep it ringing long after the danger is gone. This brings us to a crucial Gnostic concept that perfectly describes their method. The ancient texts use the word hal, which translates to imitation or forgery. The Archons cannot create anything original. They can only imitate, distort, and attach false narratives to neutral realities. They take a simple fact, a critical comment from your boss, a strange look from a friend, and they expertly wrap it in a story of impending doom or personal rejection. They forge your reality by faking the meaning attached to it. So if they are such masters of forgery, so adept at hacking the very wiring of our brains and exploiting our deepest insecurities, how can we possibly defeat them? The answer is both profound and surprisingly simple. You don't beat them at their own game. You refuse to play. The Gnostic secret to spiritual freedom is not to wage a war against these psychic counterfeiters. An open war is precisely what they want. Fighting them, resisting them, arguing with them, all of these actions generate the very currency of chaos and emotional turmoil on which they feed. You cannot out-argue a voice that writes its own rules of logic. Instead, you adopt a new role. You cease to be the frantic citizen trying to discern real money from fake in a chaotic marketplace. You become the sovereign auditor. Think about how a professional financial auditor operates. When they encounter fraudulent data in a ledger, they do not get angry. They don't scream at the numbers. They don't try to wrestle the false entries into submission. Such an emotional response would be unprofessional and useless. Instead, they calmly, coolly, and dispassionately observe the data. They check it against the primary source, the verifiable records. Upon discovering the forgery, they do not engage with its story. They simply and quietly invalidate it. With the stroke of a pen, they declare it null and void, and move on. The fraudulent entry is rendered powerless not through battle, but through the calm, authoritative light of neutral observation. This is the moment of profound liberation that shifts everything. The power of the Archons lies not in their own strength, but in their anonymity. Their entire strategy depends on their ability to convince you that their voice is your voice. The moment you create even a millimeter of separation, the moment you can observe a thought of doubt and say, "Ah, I see that." A thought of self-criticism is present. You sever their connection. You step out of the drama. You are no longer the actor caught in their tragic play. You have become the audience, watching from a place of quiet stillness. The Archons will present you with an invoice, a bill demanding payment in the form of your fear or anxiety. If you unconsciously react to it, if you get caught up in the story of why the bill is terrifying or unfair, you have just paid it in full with your life force. But if, as the Sovereign Auditor, you simply look at the invoice and calmly state, "This claim is fraudulent. I decline to authorize this payment," it becomes a worthless piece of paper. Their weapon is not fear. It is your unconscious belief in the fear. And a parasite cannot feed on a witness who is no longer interested in its story. This understanding brings us from ancient theory to immediate, practical application. It provides us with a protocol, a clear set of steps to execute whenever we find ourselves under psychic attack. Think of this not as a meditation you must set aside time for, but as a mental maneuver you can deploy in seconds, in any situation. We call it the Sovereign Audit. It consists of 3 simple steps. Step 1. Detect and label. The moment you feel that familiar, sinking wave of anxiety, doubt, or self-criticism, your first action is to simply stop. Pause the inner monologue. Take a single conscious breath. Then, with the calm, detached authority of an expert discovering a forgery, you internally state, "Detected, a counterfeit emotional transaction." That's it. This act of labeling is incredibly powerful. It immediately creates a space between you, the observer, and the thought form you are observing. It takes the thought out of the category of me and places it into the category of phenomenon under review. You have shifted from being the subject of the emotion to being the scientist studying it. Step 2. Decline validation. Once the fraudulent thought has been labeled, your next step is to refuse to grant it your power. You do this not with anger or resistance, but with a cool, bureaucratic finality. You internally affirm, "Validation of this transaction is declined. Energy not allocated." Feel the meaning behind these words. You are not fighting the thought. You are simply refusing to sign the check. You are enacting a boundary policy for your own mind. It is a quiet, internal, and non-negotiable declaration that your energy, your focus, and your emotional signature are sovereign resources that you will not invest in a known fraud. Step 3. Redirect focus. The final step is to gently but firmly shift your attention away from the fraudulent transaction and onto an authentic one. Anchor your awareness in a direct, undeniable physical sensation. It could be the solid feeling of your feet on the floor. It could be the cool sensation of air entering your nostrils as you breathe. It could be the gentle, rhythmic beating of your own heart. Choose one concrete, present moment sensation and place your full attention there for just 30 seconds. This action anchors you in what is real. It is you, the auditor, turning away from the false ledger and placing your hand on the true, verifiable record of your living, breathing existence. Detect and label. Decline validation. Redirect focus. This is not a battle plan. It is a simple, elegant protocol of mental hygiene. It is the practical method for taking your power back, not by fighting the darkness, but by methodically and repeatedly choosing to invest your attention only in the light. And so, the landscape of our inner world transforms. The spiritual war is not a battlefield after all. It is a boardroom. Your mind is that room, and you are the chairman of the board. The Archons are merely noisy, minority shareholders, presenting hostile motions of doubt and fear at every turn. You do not need to expel them from the room. You only need to stop giving them your deciding vote. The Gnostic Gospel of Philip, another treasure from the Nag Hammadi library, offers a final piece of startlingly relevant advice for this new role. It says, "Do not fear the flesh, nor love it. If you fear it, it will become your master. If you love it, it will devour and paralyze you." This is the essence of the auditor's mindset. Neither fear nor attachment. Neither resistance nor obsession. Simply clear, sovereign observation. Let this be the question that guides you from this day forward. The most powerful inquiry you can make is not, "Is this thought true?" but rather, "Is this thought mine?" In that simple, profound audit of ownership resides your entire freedom. If you are ready to claim your seat as the sovereign auditor of your own mind, declare it in the comments below with the single word, sovereignty. Your engagement helps us to calibrate our own work, and for more tools to aid in your great unfolding, subscribe to Mystic Sages.